All right, Patrick. So I think Sonny Gray was the odds-on favorite we all thought to be the Twins opening day starter. Joe Ryan.
Yes,
Joe Ryan gets the nod.
how about that? He's probably a little further along and being stretched out, huh? And, hell, he started an Olympic game, so he's used to the pressure, right? And wasn't he their first Olympic game starter over there
Yeah, I think
last
he
year?
was.
So it's another example though of the downgrading of starting pitching. Not that this kid doesn't have a chance, but that used to be this big honor that this guy's the opening day starter. I see that Houston just told Verlander, yes, this doesn't quite fit in the way you're coming back, and he looks to be coming back, pretty well from Tommy John, but he's not going to pitch opening day either. What was interesting about me is I was saying, okay, when's the last time they started a rookie? And I remember Brad Haven starting a game, but he was not a rookie. He'd had enough innings beforehand. Tommy the Blade Hall for Billy Martin in 1969.
Wow.
So I went back and looked at that team. They had Cott, they had Jim Perry, and they had a healthy Dave Boswell. I think what happened, and I wasn't covering then, is Dean Chance was supposed to be the guy, and then he had a bad shoulder the last week, and they didn't. That would be my guess because
they don't want to throw the rotation off. Yeah.
Because Dean Chance had pitched only like 320 innings in 1967, and 260 the next year or something like that, and he only made a few starts that year. He only made 18 starts or something that year, and he wasn't in the rotation at the start of the year. So that must have been how the Blade ended up as the starter. A little left-hander. Looked it up. He's still with us, but he was from Riverside, California, I believe. But I might try to track him down, but it's not going to be easy. I'm sure that we don't have a look up old phone numbers thing I can't ever remember the Blade being invited back for a Twins event, which would kind of be the key to having a phone number for him. So
74 now, I believe, Patrick.
Yes.
10 years, what, with Twins, Reds, Royals, and Mets, I believe.
I can tell you one thing. He's not going to suffer from heart problems due to obesity. He weighed about 140 and threw harder than hell. A little left-hander, and ended up in the bullpen after a couple of years. I think he made 18 starts, and I looked him up. He made 18 starts that year, and that was the most he made. So, but that was – Jim Perry won the Cy Young the next year. Cott was still good, and Boswell was Boswell's last good. No, Boswell. Well, yeah, Boswell was in the rotation because he missed a couple of starts after the manager punched him out in Detroit, but that's a different story. So
it's Billy Martin. Come on.
Yes,
stuff happens with Billy. We learned that.
Yeah, when you look back at Joe Ryan starting for the Twins 15 years from now, it'll be much more explainable as Tommy the Blade Hall starting with a team that had Cott Boswell and Jim Perry, who won the Cy Young the next year as part of your rotation.
Yeah. This is baseball related. Someone just DM'd me. I think this must have been earlier this morning. A website called Delman Young TradeTree.com.
Oh my God.
And it's what you would think it is. It's Delman Young's trade tree going back to the initial trade when the Rays traded him to the Twins in 2008.
That's all that's on the website is Delman Young information.
It's the web of players that the Rays have built their franchise around since that trade and the tentacles off that trade. Okay. So it is the subheadline is the gift that keeps on giving. That the Rays have earned 50 wins above replacement in the last 14 years off of players they've acquired through the Delman Young trade tree.
Okay.
So they first acquired Garza and Jason Bartlett, and those guys were really good for a couple years for them. Yep. And then they traded Garza for Brandon Guyer, Chris Archer, And then they traded Archer for Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow and Shane Baz. Mm-hmm. And so it's all of
somebody has nothing to do to figure that out.
This is like menwholooklikeKennyRogers.com, which is another great. It's literally just pictures of men who look like Kenny Rogers.
I think when they
in all the years of you being associated with this enterprise, the Delmans quote up and when the Twins Fest was held up at National Sports Center is the old timer.
So Delman, what do you like to do on the off days around here? Drink.
That's a good one, but the David Kahn one to Royce and Mackey is still.
Yeah, I mean that we ended up getting David and the Timberwolves fined off that one, but I still think the wonder of drink is the best.
A young Declan Goff was in the crowd at that Twins Fest watching that happen. I remember that very vividly. 18-year-old Declan watching that and laughing his ass off.
I remember looking beyond Delman. I think it was Mike Herman was the Twins PR director at the time, and looking at PR just like putting their head in their hands. Oh, God.
You know what? We want transparency and honesty, and damn it, we got it that day.
I remember they brought him in with Billy Smith. They had a press conference, I think, at a hotel or something. They were so excited about Delman. And I think we all were kind of on board. Hey, young, great hitter. And then we kind of met him. I don't know if the driving thing about his life is baseball, but he was the MVP of the Venezuelan Winter League about 2 years ago when I think he beat out Astudillo 2-3 years ago when the Venezuelan Winter League, nobody'd go there because they were afraid they'd get kidnapped, man.
So has spent he's still playing. So he's only 34 years old. He's younger than Josh Donaldson. Yeah.
34.
Well, 30. He's 30. I think he's 35 now. But last year he played 28 games in the Australian Professional Baseball League for Melbourne. He batted in 109 plate appearances. He batted 400 with a .620 slugging percentage. Just raking in Australia, just drinking Foster's.
Luke Hughes.
Mexico some too, didn't he? Didn't he play in Mexico some?
He did. He played for. Let's see. He's played in 2 Mexican leagues. There's the AAA Mexican League, and he played for Puebla in 2018. Batted .335, slugged .563. Actually, looks like he played for 3 different teams across Australia and Mexico in 2018. And he hit 32 home runs and drove in 122 across the 3 different leagues.
Boy, it would be great to track him down, wouldn't it? Except he might beat you up if you showed up and wanted to ask him a question. But what a story. What a nomad he's become with that kind of talent. He did drive in. Did he get to 100 with the Twins?
He drove in 112 in 2010.
What?
Yeah,
he drove in 112?
He batted 7th almost all year. Remember, he batted like 7th or 8th almost all year, and he was hitting like 320 for half the year. Yeah. And people are asking, classic Gardenhire, right? Hey, so it's like July now, and Delman Young is your best hitter. Are you going to move him up? No, we got to keep. Keep him comfortable.
That's when we had to have Mike Redmond hit third. Because we didn't want to mess with that.
Day games, man. When Red Dog would play, had to hit third in the Metrodome.
Of all of Gardy's strange things, I think the not messing up the lineup to move Mike Redmond down out of Joe Mauer's slot when Joe Mauer was winning batting titles was maybe one of his all-time peculiarities. That's for sure.
Delman was. I'm looking it up here. Delman. I was actually exaggerating on the July thing. I thought. No, Delman was batting 7th into the early part of July, and then they finally moved him up. Or maybe he might have hit the DL. Yeah, they moved him up to cleanup in late July.
Really? really? Wow.
that season. Yeah.
Wow. But
Amazing.
yeah. Hey, did you guys ever hear that Mike Redmond used to walk naked through the clubhouse? Did you ever hear that?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
No,
I never heard that
no.
one. No, but just
No
his
way.
cleats on, huh?
Nobody ever wrote that, did they?
No, it's crazy.
No, I heard that one.
Used that one. That was a beauty.
The other guardiism I loved too was when he had two center fielders on the roster in Denard Span and Ben Revere, but Span had some vertigo problems and he didn't want Span to be uncomfortable, so he wanted to keep Span in center field and put the worst arm in outfield history, Ben Revere, in right field.
And by the way, Denard Span was a great right fielder.
I know.
And in a so-so center fielder, but yeah, he was a different. He didn't quite change the lineup as often as Rocco does. That's for sure.
So what's your we got the season starting next week. We went from potentially adding Frankie Montas, which still could happen at some point, to adding the ghost of Chris Archer. But what's how many wins are we looking at here?
I'm trying to actually get Husey on the phone today to talk about thoracic outlet syndrome, and the odds of coming back from that are almost nil the way when you look at it, because you lose velocity. Remember when Hughes, we always say, well, they didn't have a number one. Hughes was a number one that year. I mean, you look at that, it was fantastic. And the next year he had no velocity, and we tried to blame it on him being out of shape and all kinds of other things. And I'm wondering, was that the start of it? Because he had the surgery, I think, a year later.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
I think so.
Was that the first sign? Because nobody knew that they had a thoracic outlet until about 8 years ago, right?
Yes.
And you got to wonder how many generations of pitchers
pitched through it.
He lost it. He just lost it. I don't know how he lost it. And there's some speculation 100 years later that the reason Tanana went from a bullet thrower to a junk baller, and he was able to make the transition, but that might have been it. So it is. If you look back through the generations of baseball and all the assumptions that we made, that this might have been an injury that's been around forever, that nobody even knew it was there, even the orthopeds. But I don't know. I think Correa is. You got, obviously, you cannot make a prediction on this team unless you know that Byron Buxton is going to play 140 games. If their lineup plays 140 games, I'm mildly optimistic now. But also, we're going to have, you got a 5-man starting rotation if Archer's part of it. This is going to be one of those years when 12 or 13 different guys make starts, and you're going to have openers, and it's not going to be a solid starting rotation. But you look at the division, I probably like them better in Cleveland and
Cleveland.
And maybe Kansas City. I think Detroit's done some things, and they're in that. There's 4 of them that are chasing one team that's going to win 90 some games. So they'll be around 500, I think, with this lineup. A little more, a little better, maybe.
Do you guys think that there's a chance that they are quietly hoping Sano gets off to a decent start, can trade him for pitching, and then move Kirilloff to first base?
Well, I think they'd trade Miguel if somebody wanted to give him a pitcher. I thought the team that they should be talking to is Miami. Miami was looking for hitting and had a bunch of young arms, and that were pretty good, but that never gained any momentum. And I don't know what Jeter quit because Miami didn't want to do anything right to get better and didn't want to spend any money. So I have no idea if that's viable, but I thought Miguel would be a perfect fit for Miami, get that little guy, to get down there and give him a little clout and give him a little local flavor. And I think sure they'd do that. I think deep in their hearts, they'd rather have Kirilloff playing first base. But
Well, they also had Luisa Rise taking reps at first too in the earlier part of the week of spring as well.
That was if somebody ends up pinch running for somebody or something. That's not going to happen. But he's got to be in a lineup. He's got to be in a lineup.
I agree.
He can hit. He and Polanco hitting 1 and 2. That's your regular lineup, and wherever Rise is, whether he's playing third base or. I think you'll see some games where Polanco plays short and Rise plays second. You don't have to do that full time, but I think there'll be some of those games too when Correa's taking his, because he's going to have to get off his feet once a week, right? Correa?
Oh, once a week? What are you kidding?
He's got to stay fresh for that 8-year contract he's going to sign somewhere else.
We don't want.
Dodgers are going to pay
you. Let's treat him like the Brewers treated CC Sabathia.
180 pitches.
You're starting again, but I started yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, CC, we know we got CC. We know we aren't keeping him. We're going to let that guy pitch. We're going to let him start 40 games and then relieve occasionally.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I was looking up that team that Tommy Hall played, started for 69. Jim Perry, 38 starts and 8 relief appearances. 38 start wasn't quite enough for Billy. They got 8 relief appearances.
Amazing.
38 starts. Unbelievable. Look back at those. Of course, Billy then, 4 or 5 years later, had that Oakland staff with the 4-man rotation, and all of them 10
years later, 80.
None of them could scratch their groin by the time they got to 28.
Mike Norris, Rick Langford, Steve McCaddy.
Yeah.
That was good rotation.
He ruined a bunch of them. He was nuts. He was insane.
Hey, before we say goodbye for the week, Lindsay Whalen, it's been announced, is being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
If anybody ever needed good news, Lindsay today, after Scalia decides to leave yesterday and enter the transfer portal too. So I knew she was nominated. I did not guess that she was going to make it the first time around, but I don't really know the process of that. But it's nice to know Lindsay and Sid are now in the same location, right? Now in the same Hall of Fame. And they're in the same Hall of Fame with the Minnesota Sports Hall of Fame, too. But this is good. I'm glad for Lindsay because she needed something good to happen to her. And maybe when she's trying to get these transfers in, they can say, hey, I'm a Hall of Famer. Come on in.
Yeah.
I just hope when Lindsay's out searching for transfers, she doesn't have to settle for New Hampshire, William and Mary, and Lafayette, that there's somebody who actually played in a major conference for her to get in transfers. But that had to be a big blow. Well, I think it was such a kick for her that she let the word out early to various people on yesterday morning to let them know this was happening, because kind of try to lighten the blow. And as I said to you guys before I came on, the last time I looked, there were 207 comments on Kent Youngblood's story on Scalia transferring, going to the transfer portal. And at least 3 of those people might have actually attended a Gopher women's game once to see Scalia play. So,
but everyone has a take regardless.
Well, we're all outraged.
I'm jumping on right now.
I'll say that's one thing that Chris Voles told me when I talked. The quote didn't end up getting in because I gave it to somebody else to use and they didn't use it. But she said, there are an incredible number of people who never gave a damn about women's basketball and women's athletics outraged because the transgender swimmer from Penn won a race. They're outraged by this, even though they never paid any attention to women's athletics previously.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the same thing with Scalia here. Now, I'm not suggesting this is not a crisis for her. Let's face it. The combination of Gopher women's and men's basketball has never been at a lower ebb rate than it is right now at the University of Minnesota.
We're
that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And we'll find out if that can change. They're both bringing in a bunch of Minnesota kids. and we'll see if that lasts. But there's 800 and they said there's already 850 players in the portal with the major conference teams. So Kentucky won the SEC tournament. They got beat in the first round by Princeton. 3 of their starters transferred because they don't want it to be their fault. It's not our fault. We lost to Princeton. We're transferred. So
I love the portal, man. I love it. Coaches are getting what they deserve.
It's a bad time to be a coach, isn't it?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Whalen is getting what she deserves.
But men's coaches are. Calipari, yeah, he is.
Oh yeah, no, I'm Kentucky women. That was the
women. Okay.
Well, let's face it. One of the great moments in NCAA basketball history was Cal losing to St. Peter's when his team could not solve the St. Peter's zone. They look like Tubby against Northwestern.
And he's sweating through his sport coat. Just embarrassing.
Yeah.
All right, Pat. Well, enjoy the Final Fours this weekend. We got Paige Beckers against Stanford tonight.
Yes.
Got the men this weekend too.
Yeah, I think Stanford's favored by 2-3 points even against UConn. So it should be okay.
All right, we'll see you
People
next week.
downtown too. That's fun.
Hell yeah. Let's get it. Be careful. Don't tell Mike Max.
No.
Max.
Okay.
That wind tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you later.
All right. See you, Pat.
Bye-bye.
Just it's a war zone down there.
War zone. Yeah.
All right. I love me some Mike Max. I just thought that was funny that he was scared to go downtown about a month ago. All right. Mackie and Judd scoring on the YouTube channel, rapping with Racy.